Welcome to our session, MRO Facing Challenges. We will switch to English because one of our panelists is an English speaker. Developing strategies to tackle the challenges faced by the aviation industry. You know, as the aviation world changes, we are facing challenges like raising costs of materials, lack of skilled workforce, problems in our supply chains due to events around the world. We also need to follow stricter environmental rules while managing MRO work for older airplanes. Our panel of experts will share their experiences and solutions for overcoming these obstacles. Please welcome Stéphane Burton, Chairman and CEO of the Origio Group. Émeric Méchin, VP Sales EMEA for Air France Industrie. Alison Deckers, General Manager for Sales Africa, Spain and Portugal for General Electric. Guillaume Limousi, Director of Sales South Europe, Middle East and Africa for Standard Aero. Salim Kouninish, VP Engineering and Maintenance for Royal Air Maroc. And Ismail Rissa Zakari, Managing Director, EMEA, Pratt & Whitney, Canada. We will go through 5 themes to provide a more in-depth perspective on each of the critical challenges facing the MRO sector. So we will start with economic fluctuations and their impact on the MRO sector. I will start with 2 questions. How should the MRO industry respond to rising material costs, fuel prices, inflation, and raw material shortages linked to political instability in certain regions? Second point, what are the sector strategies for adapting to this economic condition? Stéphane, would you start?
Yes, I think the mic is not working.
No. Microphone?
I can go like this, but it's working. Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm very pleased to be here and to share on this. I'm 20 years active in the industry, so let's say that it's not the first crisis I've encountered. And so the first question about the fluctuation of prices, I think we all encountered it over the last 20 years. I remember the 2008 crisis, the 2011 one, then we had also more recently the COVID crisis, then the war in Ukraine and everything which is popping out. So I would say MRO is used to adapt to the economic fluctuation in the prices. Second thing is we're part of a value chain. So somewhere when we are looking as an MRO, we must think, I think, as part of the value chain either on the commercial aviation or the defense aviation, which are 2 separate segments with different approach. Commercial aviation, I think it's the airlines that take care of how they reflect the cost increase to, I would say, the market. So the tickets, the flight tickets are increasing. What we need to do is to see how we can cope with the increase of cost so that we help our customers to maintain the same level of utilization of the assets. So every aircraft is an asset that needs to be the most utilized as possible. And this, as an MRO, is more focused on how we work on aircraft dispatch reliability. Material management, in my mind, is something where you relate a lot on the airlines. OEMs know that for a long time because OEMs have actually made the deal more with the airlines. So they give the good prices to the airlines. So what an MRO would do is actually step out its shoes into the framework agreement that is concluded by an airline, and I see that Salim is nodding, so I'm probably right. But the job of the MRO is to see that we increase the aircraft dispatch reliability, which somewhere decrease the cost of utilization of every flight hour. And that's, in general, the way of doing it, I think, for commercial aviation. Of course, we have another thing, that there is still a problem with supply chain. So supply chain, the way to cope with supply chain is 2 things. Is you work on obsolescence. So you try to extend the life either of the aircraft itself or on the components on this aircraft. But there's the next thing is when you really have a shortage and you see it in aged aircraft, then you have another way of doing, which is going into aircraft dismantling and actually refurbishing of certain parts and put them on the market. And there might be a reflection because as OEMs are late in delivery of aircraft, let's be transparent, the demand is higher than the offer today in aircraft. Maybe there's a reflection to be had with large airlines about doesn't it make sense to dismantle some aircraft to have more parts and sweat more the asset that you're going to keep on flying? So I think, in a nutshell, for commercial aviation, we are just part of a value chain, and it's something to be discussed with the airlines, building up their capability to capture more revenue, building up on our capability to better manage the cost and availability of the components, and then building up how do we cope with obsolescence until you have a recovery in the number of aircraft delivery. But that's for the commercial aviation segment.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. Ismail, would you give your perspective? Of course. Microphone.
So hello? Okay, so thank you for that perspective. I would just maybe like to say one other element here to take into consideration is, of course, the industry has been going through a lot of shocks and people had to adapt, and adaptability has been something that was in part of the industry for a long time. But I think there's something unique this time, at least from our portfolio perspective, which is on top of this shock that is going on, at least from a Pratt & Whitney Canada perspective, all our markets are up. So typically in the previous shocks, you would have oil and gas will go up, another market will go down, and then we'll be able to cope, between across the different value chain. This time, when you look at pre-COVID numbers and you look at today, all our markets are trending 30% or plus up in terms of utilization. So that drives another added pressure that we need to cope with. And I'm sure before we discussed in the previous panel, supply chain disruptions is one thing. Now, even if we deliver to the level that we were delivering before, it's not good enough. So that's the reason why, for us, we have to find a way to innovate further than elements that have to do with the supply chain. And the engagement on MRO starts even before the MRO. It's all about how we coach and how we spend time and how we engage with the operators to come up and derive maintenance strategies that takes into consideration the challenges that we're facing. And what I mean by that is most of the engines that we have today have some sort of unconditioned aspect to them. So you can decide based on your environment, based on your utilization profile, how to modulate the maintenance. And it may not be intuitive to do a maintenance before it's due, but it might be the right thing to do, because then certain parts may be repairable at that stage rather than pushing the envelope to a point where now all of a sudden you have to scrap a part that you don't have. So that engagement with operators, I think, becomes very, very important. I think that's what we need to also focus a little bit on.
Thank you very much, Ismail. Maybe Guillaume, you would like to add?
There's a lag.
No? Yeah, okay.
I would recommend we switch on all the microphones so we're full on fire.
Okay.
Please, Guillaume.
I think it's all right. Okay, thanks. First of all, StandardAero is just a few words about StandardAero. StandardAero, it's a full independent MRO organization, mainly focusing on engine on different sectors, and commercial, military, and business aviation. So when we look back to this question, how the MRO world and StandardAero can cope with the fluctuation of the economical aspect, there is few aspects where the MRO can do absolutely nothing. When we look for the foreign exchange, for example, and it's something that is, really a big issue, and especially in our part of the world, this is something that the MRO cannot cope directly with it. And it's interesting because it's part of the previous discussion, previous panel from the lessor, who points out about the cost of the money. And as a MRO, there is a need to have this foreign exchange management well done. Otherwise, for an airline and for an operator, when you look about the cost of the maintenance, it can be really a disaster. But this aspect is not managed by the MRO itself. It can be managed with the support of the financial organization, but also from the OEM itself. And it's where, when we look on the StandardAero perspective, to be able to work, I would call hand by hand with the OEM under special agreement for the MRO activity, it's also one of the key elements. The other aspect, and which has been also discussed on the previous panel, it's about the supply chain. How we can, again, at the MRO perspective, manage and improve and minimize the cost increase year after year. And there is different way to do it, to have joint effort, to have a combination of work, and always with the OEM, but also with the other MRO that could be partner, but also competitor.
We will. Sorry. No, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
please.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
We will come back to the topic dedicated to supply chain just after in the third one. So maybe we can take a bit of time for that.
The last point that I wanted to bring, some smaller initiative like on the MRO do not manage at all the fuel price. However, there is small initiative that can be put in place at MRO level to minimize the cost of the fuel used during the MRO activity, and mainly on the engine side. The utilization of the fuel that remain at the during maintenance of an aircraft can be used. And again, you optimize the cost. Indeed, it can be just a small part, but this is, when you look about all the initiative, it's always a plus. So it's where an MRO like Standard can bring value.
Okay. Thank you very much, Guillaume. We will go to our second topic related to shortage of skilled labor and talent management. Two questions to drive the discussion. How are the MRO companies and airlines handling the shortage of skilled labor, particularly with aging specialized personnel in critical fields like NDT and metrology? Okay. Second point, to address what initiatives can be introduced to attract, train, and retain talent in this crucial industry. Alison Deckers, would you give us your perspective?
Certainly. Microphone on? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Raphael. So, listen, I think there's definitely challenges that we're facing around labor. One of the things that we all know is it's not going to be solved immediately. This is going to take time and take a lot of effort from multiple parties, not just within our industry, but other industries. What we see is that there's the need for both on a government intervention perspective to help with getting the workforce and getting the skilled labor and the incentives to entice an aviation industry focus is a necessity. We also see that it takes the likes of, we're seeing in Poland and in Malaysia, there's certainly MRO hubs being formed there. That's not coming because of having a commercial hub center, but it's because of the political influences and the motivation that they're getting from the government intervention. So that's one thing that we absolutely need to work on and improve. When I look at GE Aerospace and how we're looking at trying to build and improve the talent base, but also acquire the best resources, technicians, what we're doing, we actually just had, and you may have seen it last week, an announcement for a $2.3 million investment into skill development. That's going to be across multiple factors. So it's going to face not only into skilled technicians, so we look at the apprentices going into our MRO facilities and into our manufacturing facilities, but it's also in looking at the leadership skill sets that we need in the industry to take us into the next generation. There's also looking at having some of the younger talent coming in and an investment there. So we have a program that's called the Edison program that trains, it's a 2-year training program that we bring early in career engineers into the business and try to educate them, teach them the skills and the skill sets to go into management functions in the industry going forward. So I think those 3 aspects are where we're investing, heavily investing, and understand the need. But it's not an immediate fix. Development of talent takes time.
And in terms of attracting these young talents, because you are now explaining how you train them, make them grow and get skilled to your needs. How do you capture these people? We know that in Europe, for instance, and US and Canada is the same. Aerospace is not now the major topic where students want to work in.
Yes.
So what in your company? How do you attract these people?
Great question. So one of the aspects that we do is we actually do devote time at universities where we have core universities that we look at the talent and the education base. We work with them to find and recruit from those universities. and again, offer this type of training mechanism to build skill sets and come into a company that, like a GE Aerospace, that it seems like it's a young company because we're only 6 months old, as we've just split off as a standalone company, but we've got 105 years of history behind our organization, and there's something to be proud of there. And that's how we entice and encourage people to come and join and work for us.
So you mean it's not only a question of money, it's also a question of image of the company, attracting people to come to work with you.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alison. Emric, would you give your perspective, please?
So for Air France and KLM engineering and maintenance, the challenges are also huge in terms of recruitment. That's about 300 to 500 staff in Air France and same in KLM ENM this year that we have to hire. So that's significant. We have several leverages. As you said, first, we have to start by defining clearly the competencies that we need. And we work closely with training schools in France to define the training program to make sure that we have people who will stick to our needs. And a very good leverage in France is the contrat d'apprentissage, apprenticeship program that is quite powerful. So I really think that in other countries it must be something to look at, where the young students are partly working in Air France, KLM, and partly going to school every 2 weeks. And after 1 or 2 years, we will hire them. This year, we have started to launch this process with 1,000 students in September. So that's one leverage. Secondly, for engineers, we participate to many forums, school forums, to make sure that we have visibility. Important to work on the image of the company, of course. So sustainability, development, making sure that we communicate also properly on our commitments to be sustainable as per our plan, to make sure that students feel comfortable. And all in all, this year, Air France has been ranked #1 as an attractive company for students in France in the transportation field. So that's a large range of tools.
In the first question, we were talking about also dedicated or specialized personnel like critical specialized personnel on critical fields like NDT or meteorology. Would it be a question also to automate some actions and tasks so that we can concentrate, we can take these skilled people on where they have the best added value? Who would put that in perspective? Ismail, would you?
Yeah, well, I mean, before I go to that one, just to bounce on one of the elements that was mentioned there, I think talent attraction is one thing, but retention is also very important. And I think as OEM, I think we have the ability to navigate from MRO to non-MRO activities. And when you're in engineering, you can be in MRO engineering, or you can be in customer engineering, or you can be in product engineering. So there's careers that can be created, and then you can allow people to move up through the chain as well, and that helps. Now, of course, automation and leveraging technology is something that helps as well to make some of these critical skill jobs, I would say, a little bit less reliant on the amount of people. Now, at the same time, we still need to have the people that are going to design those new technologies in there as well. And there is definitely opportunities into leveraging robotics and advanced imagery to be able to improve inspection. That also helps reducing the scrap rate, which then improves or helps the impact on the pull on the supply chain. So, yeah, I think definitely those are elements that we need to consider and we need to look at.
Thank you very much, Ismail. We will go to our third topic, responding to supply chain disruption. 2 points. In the face of supply chain disruption caused by events such as pandemics, geopolitical tensions, and commercial or supply restrictions on certain parts, how can MRO companies and airlines adapt? Second perspective would be what alternative sourcing strategies or partnerships can strengthen resilience. Salim?
you, Raphael.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. I think the mic, yeah, now it's working. Thank you, Raphael. So, big question.
Yes.
The story starts from COVID, and we didn't recover yet. There is a lot of people, experienced people, talented people, live the OEM's production lines, and now we are trying to recover, but the airlines are back, the flights are back, and quicker than what was announced. So there is different strategies we can implement to tackle this topic. First one is flexible sourcing. Today, an airline, classic airline, works with contract, established contract with OEMs, but we know, and we agree on that the lead times now is an issue. So first thing to do is to combine between big and small providers. Big providers for the asset, for the stocks, and small one for agility. For an airline, for example, we can also use our network as a source of sourcing these items to the main base. This cut considerably the logistic issues. And for instance, for Royal Morocco, we use our flights to bring back all the materials needed in our MRO facility. Offload tactics can help with subcontractors. We have established contracts today with OEMs, but we can go offloading some capacities to face the lead time and the turnaround time problematic. Of course, without compromising safety and quality. Strategic inventory management today is important because we need to balance stock levels versus lead time, and also high impact items on the MRO chain. MEL no-goes versus nice to have. This is something we can work in, and also increasing safety stock. But I think the most important thing is the OEM MRO airline partnership. For that, we need full transparency and fluent communication between the organization to tackle the real problematics. And we can also, via reliability program, work on extending the due dates for inspections. This can relieve the pressure from the OEM production lines and meet the customer satisfaction. Building local capabilities. We see yesterday what was signed in Morocco. This is not really new. We started this strategic field 25 years ago with Royal Morocco. We start with signing with Safran for SISM shop in Casablanca 25 years ago, and it continues. And this is something really important for an airline to have a field of OEMs in the main base to help tackle all this problematic and to ensure a smooth network for an airline. What I can say, some local in-house capabilities, especially for an airline for cabin appearance, plastic repairs, leather refurbishment, 3D printing for small parts, but also for big projects like engines and components can also be a source of solution for an airline.
So it's a mix between internal capacities and strategic partnership with suppliers, but also OEM.
Absolutely. Yeah, for the second topic, we have some challenges to tackle. Expanded fleet, we discussed it with Stéphane, older aircraft, so we need to manage it, high maintenance requirement and turnaround down pressure. All that needs to have a capacity and flexibility to manage complex and unpredictable maintenance. So how to improve it? This is a big question. Capacity, space. Today, we know that space is a problem. There is a rush on MRO capacity. We need to start by some lean projects and solutions, and also to think really on flexible facilities. Because today, when we invest on a facility, it takes 20 years to be profitable, we need to be more agile to face such as problem. Predictive maintenance planning. This is also a key, because if we plan right, we can avoid disruptions and problem on plannings.
You give me the perfect transition, because we were talking with Emeric about predictive maintenance, but maybe Emeric, you would give the whole big picture on this topic.
Yes, thanks indeed. So I agree with all what Salim said, but in terms of few innovations that we have implemented in Air France Industrie KLM E&M that participate to tackle the supply chain issues. First of all, the predictive maintenance, indeed. The aircraft are providing a lot of data. It's not only a matter of having it, but making a good use of that, big data, but also engineers behind it to make sure, and that's what we provide today with our Prognos digital tool. We anticipate by about 20-25 days some components removal before they fail by analyzing different parameters on each of these components. For example, on the cabin air compressor on the 787, now we can anticipate few weeks before. So as you said, Ismail, that's a way to be able to have the aircraft where needed at the main base, with the part available, with the staff available, and the tool to be able to change a part before it fails. So you reduce the cost before an heavy failure. You reduce your airline cost because the packs will not be stuck in an airport everywhere on the world. So that's really an added value that we propose. Another one is a 3D printing. That's we are not only starting. Initially, it was prototypes, but today we in Air France KLM we manufacture about 20 cabin parts by additive printing. So that's it will not tackle the main part of the aircraft, but for the cabin, it can be useful. Because that's also an issue to have a...
To the lead time.
Sorry?
To the lead time extension.
Yes, and of course you save significantly the lead time.
And at least it's a start.
Yes.
20 parts, but it's a start to open for the future.
Yeah.
I will say the big word, artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. You were talking about big data. If there's a upper layup with artificial intelligence for your predictive maintenance, Emeric or Salim?
Okay. It's the case today. 787 works with AHM, aircraft health monitoring, and it based on AI also, because how to predict a failure is using AI today. It's the case today in all the new generation aircraft. We are glad to have these tools because, as you say, there is a pressure on aircrafts, pressure on network. So the best way to avoid disruption is to use data and use it right. So today is the case. Hope this can be developed better and better for the next few years.
But if I may add on the AI part, beyond the big data or the fancy aspect of it, there's also AI can be leveraged to increase the productivity of the workers. Sometimes, the manuals are complicated. You need to navigate multiple organizations, especially the big MROs have a lot of different processes, a lot of ERPs. Having AI that allows to give the worker all the tools that he have available to make a decision, that can also help accelerate the MRO process and then hence reduce cost.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We will go to our fourth topic, regulatory challenges related to environmental protection. So again, to point, what is the impact of new environmental regulations and airlines' sustainability expectations on MRO activities? And how can MRO service providers support the transition to greener operation? Alison?
Thanks, Stefan. So this one, again, two questions that relied on bigger than just our industry, bigger than just MRO, to be fair. This is also, from a standpoint of sustainability, it's going to be a holistic approach that needs to be maintained and be followed. What we're seeing is that there is a lot of development that's happening. We're trying, and I think, back to AI, on-condition monitoring, all of those aspects of utilizing parts longer, being able to actually do maintenance when it's required, comes down to an element of sustainability. So it's a very important key element for us, as well as repair development, repair technologies, being able to utilize parts as long as possible. So it's important. It also helps in the cost equation as well for the airlines.
Absolutely.
That said, there is, there's the continual investment. Last year, GE Aerospace invested $2.3 billion in repair development. In development. So it's not just on the repair side, but it's just in development of processes, development of new technologies. So $2.3 billion. That all goes into our initiatives on how do we actually achieve some of the dynamic challenges that we as an industry have to hit the objectives. Now, when we do that, we look at it from a perspective of new engines and the technologies that go into engines. The products that we place in the market today are 10 to 15% more fuel efficient than they were from the last generation. That's what we're putting in the market today. Where do we go in the future? So we look at today's scenario and say, we've done that investment, we could do that continual investment in technologies. That gives us that fuel efficiencies. Again, coming back to your point around fuel and the cost of fuel, again, it's all an ecosystem and the effects of it. The next piece is where are we going in the future? Where are we going tomorrow? So in our development programs, we have a RISE development program in place. The initiative there is actually to achieve an additional 20% fuel efficiency over the standard of today. Now, what I just said is we took last generation from 10 to 15% to this generation, and we're going to take it to a 20% improvement of fuel efficiency into the future. That's significant, but it takes a lot of effort, it takes time, and it takes a significant amount of investment to do that.
Thank you very much. Ismail, would you interact on this?
Yeah, I would say, I think Alison covered the subject pretty well, and we're very aligned on this roadmap to improve the efficiency of the engine and the consumption. But we also have to look at our own consumption across our factories, across our MROs. We've been investing in solar panels in some of the factories. We're looking at waste management, looking at everything that can be done to limit the impact on the environment in our operations. So I think that's looking at the significance of the locations you have that could also make a difference.
Maybe a point also linked to regulatory bodies and the discussion you would have with them.
Yeah, just talking about the regulatory, if you look the REACH program from the European Community, it's something that applies systematically now.
Yes.
So again, on the MRO perspective, when you look about that, you need to put this, what's so-called now the environmental social governance. So this is really something that push the MRO and an MRO independent like Standard Aero to put in place the right processes to limit the impact on the environment. We are talking about oil, fuel, all the special chemical products that are used during the MRO process. And by following the regulatory requirement, there is this push that makes at least the MRO greener and avoid the bashing, because what we can see, and the good example is last week at the MRO Europe in Barcelona, you get a lot of protesters just in front of the entrance of the MRO show, complaining about the MRO and aviation. By putting all this environmental social governance in place, the MRO world can become really greener and be part of the solution to limit the impact on the environment.
So what you mean is being linked closely to the regulatory bodies also make it easier to set up a roadmap that will
No, absolutely, because when you look about the expectation on the, let's call it the political side, and especially with the European Community, imposing strong rules. There is a need to work with them to confirm what is reachable on a agreed timing. Because there is a lot of strong process on the product development with special metallurgical protection and so on that are not greener.
No, and this is what I wanted also to mean. They have expectations, politicals have expectations for the population, and people are asking that they don't know our sector, they don't know our constraints, and it takes time to develop a substitute, the component or another oil or whatever that would be rich compatible. No, thank you very much. Let's go to our last topic. Managing MRO flow and demand. With a growing capacity, optimization of spaces and planning, and the reduction of the TAT, an aging global fleet considered, what are the main obstacles and opportunities to aligning MRO offerings with market demand? Salim?
Yeah, I can take this one. So first, obstacles. Labor and manpower today is a big question. As I said, it starts with COVID. People experience it, leave the companies, and now we need to rebuild the capacities. It takes time, as you know. Going from A technician to B to C takes 10, 15 years. And the problem is how to retain, how to improve capacities and knowledge and skills. And Ismail said before, Stefan speak about it, this is a real challenge today. So I think all of us are working closely at this point in different fields, MROs, airlines, and also OEMs. And of course, training is the pillar. We need to put in place continuous providers, engineering school, technician schools, and Emmerich speak about it. There is a contrat stagiaire within Air France KLM organization, but we do the same in Casablanca with Royal Air Maroc. We have our partners, IMA, for instance, Ismala, with the FEPT training center, that help us to continuously provide labor for stability of the MRO activity. And I think today, as discussed earlier, how to build it, how to maintain it is the key.
Thank you, Salim. Guillaume,
Well,
what would be your perspective?
Okay, when we look about what has been said just before, we have been talking about AI, we have been talking predictive maintenance, we have been talking supply chain management. We look for to be able to absorb all the demand on the MRO. It's to work with all those different aspects, which bring then the question of the training to attract young people to move to our sector instead to go to the Silicon Valley. It's this combination that will bring and help the aircraft to fly and to be reliable. And with the combination of training, again, AI, predictive maintenance, management of the supply chain by cooperation between the different parties, OEM, but also the MRO, the different level of MRO, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. This is, at the end, the key of this collaboration to be able to get this aircraft flying and keeping flying. Because we know all that sometimes you are facing, as an OEM or even on the airline side, difficulty to keep the aircraft flying. So by this cooperation, starting from A to Z, will really match the MRO demand. And if we focus on the engine side that Standard Aero is really doing, it's to be able to absorb and respond to the customer request, but also to the OEM. The OEM itself is not able to absorb everything. So we are back to this collaboration and cooperation aspect. And when we look since, let's say, a couple of decades, there is a real improvement on those aspects, which bring at the end a solution for Royal Air Maroc, for example.
Thank you, Guillaume. Maybe, Stéphane, a word, because just before as well, starting the meeting, we've been talking about aging fleet. And you came with
Yeah.
part of a solution. Huh?
So in the first question, I talk about commercial aviation experience that we do have, but we also work for defense. And so aging fleet is something that we are coping with in defense. So in defense, there's one bird here on the stand, and I'm working on some AWACS programs. So these birds, they have 70 years. So, and we're also working on F-35, which is 2 years old. So, I mean, aging fleet is something that is an opportunity. In reality, I think this crisis is an opportunity. First, to copy model that exists in other segment of the MRO. And there, the defense MRO segment offers way of doing extended life program. Predictive maintenance is an accelerator. So that's the second one. I think we should go faster in predictive maintenance, faster in AI, faster in sweating the existing resources, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is a scarcity of resources for numerous of hands to achieve, and we have a shortage. But the last one is focus. We need to make decisions. I mean, today, to be transparent, if you don't have enough birds to fly all the air transportation that we need to conduct, then it's also time for airlines and air transport responsible to make decisions and then say, these are the birds I want to operate, this is aircraft dispatch reliability I want to achieve. We, the supply chain and the value chain, we need to work together at it. But I think this crisis will allow us to be just better. But yes, there will be a transition during this transition. All the more that my colleagues have discussed are the right one. But I think we shouldn't reinvent the wheel. We should copy what is existing in other segments. We should apply the new technology which is in our hands at predictive maintenance and AI. We should, of course, train people for the transition, but accept that we will need to focus and we'll need to make some decisions.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody wants to add something?
Yeah, maybe just in terms of scarcity of capacities, because today that's what we face. It means also some opportunities. So, for example, Air France Industrie and Royal Air Maroc, we have a common joint venture named ATI in Casablanca. Air France and RAM have their 737 and A320 aircraft maintained in this company. So for them, with the fleet growth, it means they will build a new hangar in 26. So that's also opportunities. And at the end of the day, in our business, that's what is important. So that's, for example, a common opportunity, as you said, partnering. For an airline, another way of tackling the lack of capacity is to grow our on-wing support capacities. And we have invested since many years. We didn't wait for the COVID, but now we are very keen to have these people with multiple, let's say, knowledge and certifications to release engines on wing or on site instead of shipping the engine back to Europe, to our shops, to dispatch and fix engine issues, APUs issues as well on outstation. And for customers, that's also very appreciated. Yeah. That's another way to opportunities in a way, and also being, let's say, imaginative to find flexible solutions in an airline with its MRO as a backup, and customers are taking advantage of it as well.
You know, when we talk about capacity, it's also important to keep in mind the notion of center of excellence, because what you don't want is overcapacity when you don't have the parts. And also the notion of proficiency. It's not even a business case notion. Is you want to focus on things that are repetitive enough that you don't have line stops because you're missing the knowledge and there's not enough. You're only doing this task once in a while. So sometimes MROs tend to want to have everything, but it's important to make sure that you calibrate it well to what is required. From a center of excellence perspective.
Yeah. Operational excellence.
I had one last comment, is we should look at the next cycle. Mm-hmm. Because 2008, I was just appointed a young board director, okay? 2008 financial crisis. And at that moment, what was decided in Europe, let's stop base maintenance, let's go and do it in everywhere but in Europe, okay? 2024, we say, hey, we need to do it in Europe because there's also these ESG compliance things. It's no good any longer that I see an A320 from a Belgium Airlines, I would not call a name, that is maintained in Indonesia at mass. It doesn't make sense. Okay, what is the next cycle? So I think we should be careful about, because I'm there since 20 years and I'm probably there for another 20 years. And I don't want to see the cycle when the price will go so high, they will again destroy capacity. So I think now it's time to be smart. And that's what I like in your answer. I think we should think at remodeling our model. I think the financing on aircraft on 12, 15 years is too short. Maybe we should think in another longer cycle of financing this. maybe with recycled financing, which would ease actually the cost for the airlines, which would allow to have an MRO which is proposed not only come to me, but I will come to you, so that we also have an impact on the ESG. So I think we should rethink the MRO model, also thinking what is the long-term vision, not only the short-term. Yes, of course, today the prices are high. We build hangars. In my company, we have less than 1,000 people working as an MRO. We are building 2 hangars. That's great. But I'm thinking, what in 15 years? Yeah. What's going to happen when we will see that the C check is no longer 5,000 hours and it's longer 3 weeks, but it's going to be 1,500 hours, and they want to slice it up so that we do it overnight during the line maintenance. So do I still need my hangars? So that's where you need to rethink the business model, and that's why I think it's a risk, but it's an opportunity to be shaped for a sustainable future, because I'm very frustrated when we say that our industry is not sustainable. We are sustainable because we always think long-term, and we are sustainable because air transportation is necessary for the economy. Maybe there's a part of the shift we need to do and accept that certain short-haul we shouldn't do. We should use the train and other transportation, okay. But I think we should think long-term ourselves in our business model, not be opportunistic and say, I'm going to build a hangar, hire 100 guys, 1,000 guys, 100,000 guys. Think, how does it cope with where I'm going with the technology I know today and the technology I will be in 20 years' time?
Especially today with the carbon.
Exactly.
Yeah, the maintenance events are now longer, and as you said, this is something that we need to think on.
If an engine, you don't have to ship it back to, let's say, UK for maintenance, but you can do on-wing repair. If you can do a lot on the aircraft themselves without them having to fly, if you can actually extend their life, you change the model, you make air transport less costly, you make it less, CO2 impact generative, and you make it also a more sustainable energy. And you will have more of our MRO guys all around the world and not only in some locations. So I think there's a model to be think out of.
Yeah, just reacting on what you said about the on-wing support. But it's a nice approach, but when you look on the regulatory side and what the authority are requesting, I think it's a kind of a schizophrenia, huh? Because we ask in one side to be really strict, and on the other side say, okay, can I do it on the parking line?
I think that's why we need to educate our regulators.
So we are back to this collaboration work.
And I think we have the topic for the next Marrakesh.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We will go for a Q&A session. Do we have the microphone? Yeah. Any question? Yes, I know the panel is very good, so you don't have any questions. We have covered the topic, right?
Maybe everybody's sleeping.
I wanted to thank you very much for this session. Very instructive for myself first, but obviously also for everybody. Thank you.